Tell from the size and the contents here that this was intended for gunshot wounds and combat injuries. Comes in this durable vacuum sealed bag with 10 separate items that are very well thought out. Let's open up the bag and take a look at what we got inside here. Alright, let's read over the contents here. We've got some combat gauze in there, nasal pharyngeal airway, 14 gauge needle, 2 occlusive dressings, a casualty card, a 4-inch Z-fold gauze, 2 safety pins, 3-inch elastic bandage, some sterile gloves, and a Sharpie marker. I'll explain why that stuff is important as we're going through it here. It's obvious to me Phokus Research Group put a lot of thought into the contents of what goes inside of their low-profile trauma kit. For starters, they provide you with this instruction card on where to place the kit. They suggest that it goes underneath your body armor plate, next to your body, on your first line of equipment, which is where I think it should go as well. They provide you with one of these TCCC Combat Casualty cards. Some wire so it can be fixed to the patient or the stretcher that he's being carried on. Comes with some combat gauze and some surgical gloves. Let's talk about the combat gauze for a minute. This is some really important stuff if you haven't used this before. Really great product. I've seen it stop arterial bleeds, for example, without the use of a tourniquet. When you pack this into a wound correctly and it's applied on top of what is actually bleeding, this stuff can basically perform miracles. If the gunshot wound or the cavity that you're applying this into still needs some extra packing, you can fill it up with this gauze that also comes with the kit. This gauze is also important if you're going to apply one of the 2 occlusive bandages that come with the kit. You would want to use some of this gauze to wipe away the blood on the chest or on the back before you apply your occlusive bandage. These are for entry and exit wounds in the chest or on the back. These aren't going to stick very well if you don't wipe away some of the blood before you apply it. These are crucial for preventing a tension pneumothorax. But in the event that one does occur, they've provided you with this 14 gauge needle is intended expressly for that. It's not recommended you do needle decompression unless you've got the proper training and you know exactly where to place it. Inside of the kit you also find a couple of safety pins, a marker for filling out your TCCC card, and marking the patient. This can be important if you apply a tourniquet at another location. You can write down the time of when you actually applied that tourniquet directly on the patient near the wound. There's also an ACE bandage. This can come in handy with your combat gauze. So let's say, for example, you have 2 tourniquets and 2 extremities that already required the tourniquets, but you've got a 3rd bleeder. You apply your combat gauze. You're going to need some type of pressure bandage to hold all of that in there nice and secure. So the ACE bandage, not for sprained ankles or sprained wrists or anything like that. This is intended to be used as a pressure bandage. So you pack your wound full of the combat gauze and maybe the compressed surgical gauze, and then hold it all in place with this. If the bleeder is not as serious, then you can control the bleeding with direct pressure. Once again, here's your ACE bandage for that. The kit also comes with a nasal pharyngeal and some 550 cord wrapped around it. Important for crushing wounds to the face or other airway issues. A lot of times, it might look horrific, but somebody will get shot in the face. The entire jaw might be blown off, and while it looks horrendous, as long as they've got an open airway, that patient is likely to survive. Alright, and that's just about it. Wrapping up the contents of that kit. I think this kit would be good for law enforcement guys. Anybody who happens to be working overseas as a military contractor or something like that. All military guys, obviously, would benefit from carrying this kit. It's got everything you need to control a gunshot wound or some type of other combat injury. This is not a completely extensive medical kit. This is meant to go on your first line of equipment, like on your body, to be used right away. That's about it.